From flooding to drainage issues to 526, I speak exclusively with James Allen Town Mayor Bill Woosley for a special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. And listen to this interview later on iHeartRadio. Mayor Bill Woosley.
Hey, how are you doing today? Thanks for having me.
Anytime. This is your first time joining me for Quintin's Close-Ups. And there's so much to go around and talk about. From the Camp Road, obviously, and Foleyville location for the library, to other issues around town. What is it like to be you these days?
Staying really busy. There's been a lot of changes, but we're really happy with the new town hall we have, and we're working on many sidewalk projects going through town. We're working on a little boardwalk on Dill's Bluff Road to complete some sidewalks there. It's one of our current projects.
Wow.
And lately, I would say one of my major concerns is drainage and flooding. This is all of our local governments in the Low Country are very concerned about that, including me.
Yeah. How much concerned are you about these issues for the future?
Well, in the long run, we have very serious concerns about possible rising seawater, just the sea levels. It's just going to make everything worse. But I must admit, on the day-to-day basis, it's more about working to make sure our ditches are cleared and so the water is running off now. We have an intergovernmental agreement with Charleston County and the city of Charleston to do a island-wide drainage study that's going to study about 20 different drainage basins on James Island. And then the next step will be for the local governments to identify particular basins for a more detailed study and then action and try to improve drainage problems.
Out of the 20, which one gives you the most concern?
Well, I am very concerned about the area that runs between Camp and Fort Johnson.
Right.
Really on either side of the road, but on the you'd say is the east side of the road,
right?
And that's like there's roads like Bradford and Pauline. That there's been flooding issues in that area, and in fact, that is connected to the Shoreham Road problem that you hear so much about. So, Shoreham Road is in the city of Charleston, but that drainage from Shoreham runs through a section of the town. So, that I would say that the town and the city of Charleston is like this. Mm-hmm. Our boundaries are not, they're defined, but they just go all sorts of crooked ways. And so drainage ditches just run through the two municipalities. And it had to do with the city's strategy, Mayor Riley's strategy towards annexation, take whatever he could get. And then the town was formed on what he hadn't got yet. And so that's why we have these very irregular boundaries where things like roads and drainage ditches will pass through multiple jurisdictions. But certainly in the last few years with Mayor Tecklenburg, we have committed to work together to try to solve these problems, not fight each other about it. So that's what we're working on.
And you talk about things that the previous mayor took, for James Allen. What does James Allen have left now?
Well, the town of James Island is currently about 25% of the population of people on James Island and about a quarter of the territory. And there are maybe 20% more of the population and another 25% of the territory that is unincorporated. It's in the city. And then about half of James Island has been taken to the city. And so our goal is mostly to get back one of our goals is to get back that other 20% of the population, the other quarter of the land, so it'll be closer to 50-50.
Wow.
But right now, it's about half city, about a quarter town, and about a quarter unincorporated. It's not exactly right, but that's roughly it.
What is your vision plan of getting back that population?
Well, we have a bill filed in Columbia with Peter McCoy, and we hope to get that passed. And if that passes, then we would probably not try to go property by property. The town has traditionally used annexation elections, and so 25% of the voters in a neighborhood or area would have to sign a petition, And if they did, that would be enough interest in forming and having an election. And then in the election, if the majority of people voted to join the town, they would. There are places on James Island that many, many years ago, the city annexed through that method, but they have not done that in many years. And the town has done it. Like 5 years ago, we annexed a neighborhood, Quail Run, and that's the procedure we did. Is we went and got 25% of the people in the neighborhood to sign a petition, and there was an election, and the majority voted to join. And they were in the town a few years before, and that's sort of that was the process we would be using.
How much energy do you have for this fight?
I'm very committed to it. So what happened was when the town. We lost their case in 2011. The town was closed down. Other members of the Free James Island Board, the people who were organizing, reforming the town, we discussed, should we wait and try to change incorporation law, and so that we could incorporate it all under, to start with, or should we just get what we could and then try to expanded. And we always knew that a lot of our people who were very strong supporters of the town, elected officials, former elected officials of the town, were left out. And, it was kind of heartbreaking, and especially on election day, when people would show up that, were not in the new town saying, well, okay, I'm ready to vote for the town. I'm sorry, you can't. I promised that we would work hard to try to give them a chance to, and I think it's very important.
What else is important right now?
Well, as I said, I still think that we need more walkability in our communities. And so you mentioned earlier Folly Road. And the Rethink Folly Road project, we hope to, in 2020, so in a couple of years, these projects take a long time, but to complete sidewalks from Ellis Creek all the way down to Kentman Street near the just past Nativity Church. And that's just phase one. And we hope to get sidewalks all up and down Folly Road eventually. It's part of a key element of the Rethink Folly Road project. Actually, our goal is multi-use paths rather than just sidewalks. And so then, in fact, we're putting in a 8-foot sidewalk in that area.
How much will this cost the average taxpayer in your mind?
Well, the city and the town have both committed to $400,000, and this is money from our point of view that comes from what's called the hospitality tax.
Right.
So all of the restaurants under town jurisdiction charge 1% on the bills to fund things that help with tourism. And our view is that most of these restaurants, almost all of them, are on Folly Road. And by improving Folly Road, it would make it a better place for people not just to pass through on the way to Folly Beach, but to stop at some of our restaurants. And so we think it's an appropriate use of those funds. And so, town people who go to those restaurants pay that tax. But so do people driving to Folly Beach, or just anybody in the community also pays that tax. But we don't really anticipate using property tax funds or anything like that for this project.
And let me talk to you more about, obviously, the food service business, because obviously this is from Channel 4's website. With a unanimous vote, James Island Town Council passed final reading of an ordinance banning plastic bags, straws, and other single-use disposable items at its January 17th meeting.
Mm-hmm.
When you look back at the meeting to right now, what still plays in your mind?
I believe that having the town of James Island sort of stand away from our neighbors, the city of Charleston and Folly Beach, and continue to have all the plastic bags in our jurisdiction when everybody else is trying to clean up our marshes, that I think would have been the wrong thing to do. And so that's why I supported making our ordinances consistent with theirs. I am concerned about the restaurants, and we don't really have a lot of, we don't have any grocery stores under town jurisdiction. And so the businesses that are mostly affected by the plastic bags would be Walgreens and Dollar General. But, I see lots of those bags laying by the side of the road. I see this as a litter problem. Some people don't disagree, but I hope we can help get that solved. And I thought that was an appropriate thing for the town to do.
And obviously that ordinance won't go into effect until January 2020. So what do you do from now until then?
Well, we just educate our businesses that they need to be planning on this. Now, most of our businesses in the town are chains that have operations in the city of Charleston. And so they will be applying these rules for most of their businesses, and they'll just be doing the same thing for the town of James Island. So we do have some, small independent businesses, and I talked to several, and we communicated with all of them before this was passed, and we didn't have any concerns. I mean, they explained to me that the paper materials that they would use are more expensive. So they were concerned in that sense, but they were saying that it's really the best thing to do for our island.
And you talk more about the island. I got to talk to you about the James Island Camp Road Library branch. And this is according to the Postal Courier. It may get a new life after Charleston County Council agreed just recently to pursue a lease that would keep it open. The facility would no longer be a part of the county library system, however. Instead, the $1 annual lease will allow the town of James Island to use the building for any public educational purpose. What purpose do you have in mind?
Well, nothing has been completely figured out, and we are very interested in having this lease and using it for, any kind of purpose we had in mind would be something that would be educational of some sort. We would like to actually keep some library services there, and we have talked to the Charleston County Library. Some members of the county council have expressed to me that they would be open to us covering that cost, like paying the county for the cost of keeping a library branch there open. Now, we don't think we can afford the current level of services, and so the new library is going in down Folly Road off Grimble. It's about 3 miles away, and that will have more extensive library services than the existing one. But we would like to keep some level of library services there. As an example, a model would be the branch at Folly Beach, and we might not be quite, maybe somewhere in between where it is now in Folly Beach, or maybe like Folly Beach. But I'm not interested in having our own independent library with special town, James Island library cards. I would like to make an arrangement where we cover the cost for continued Charleston County library services. Whether that'll work out, we don't know. Some kind of museum, art exhibits, those are the sorts of things that we are thinking about for other uses, as well as, if the library services don't work out, something along those lines. But even if they do, not use all the building as is now and also have other activities.
How many of the locations do you want to keep open, 1 or 2?
Well, I mean, the new branch is I'm very happy that the new branch is opening, and of course we want to keep that open.
Okay.
And it's not really up, so that branch will be open, and that will stay open. And the town has never suggested that it be closed or restricted or anything like that. I understand that in the political debate over the last 5 years, there were some people that opposed that branch, and there were some people who said, well, okay, they can have that branch, but it should be smaller, and some of the money should go to the other library. The town has never officially taken any such position, and I personally never took that position.
Okay.
When they were talking about where to locate the branch, the new branch, there was a possibility of locating it just up the road, very close to the existing branch. And that was on property that belongs to the James Island Public Service District. And I supported that. I thought that would be a great place. It would be very close to the existing location, which is, if you look at a map of James Island, it's kind of right in the center. That our town hall is like just up the street from it, and it is right in the center of James Island. And I thought that would be a great location, but the PSD commissioners were not interested in selling, and what happened was they quoted much higher prices than the property was worth, and just basically communicated that they had no interest in this. Well, anyway, that fell through, and the current site near the James Island Elementary School was selected, and after that, I was all in favor of having the library constructed there. I was not at all interested in blocking it or reducing it. And it's actually where that is located was once in town jurisdiction, but it's not. It's now unincorporated Charleston County. But like all of the unincorporated area of James Island, we would like to have it back. We're working towards that. So the people that live in that community in the Grimble Road area, they were all in the town in 2010 when I was elected mayor.
Right.
And we lost them. And then the reason is that the area of jurisdiction of the town, between them and us, there's a strip of area that's all in the city of Charleston that blocks us. And if we had tried to include them, we could have been challenged by the city. And the town has lost to the city 3 times before.
Why do you guys keep losing to the city?
Well, because the town was different reasons for different times, but this time we didn't. So 4th time was a charm.
What is your relationship with the city of Charleston, and particularly the government right now?
I mean, I think Mayor Tecklenburg and I get along, and we are committed to working together to solve problems on James Island. And Councilwoman Carol Jackson represents much of James Island, and we get along well, and I work with her too. And so I wouldn't say we always see eye to eye on everything, but generally our commitment to solving flooding problems and working for walkability, most of our priorities are really shared. We're looking to work with the city of Charleston to buy some property on Folly Road for a park with Greenbelt funds. So the new Greenbelt allotment has come out, and the town and the city are likely to apply soon together for a small parcel that will be a small park on Folly Road on the water. We're looking forward to that. So we work with them pretty well.
You talked earlier about the center of James Island. You've been mayor now since 2010. What is the biggest difference between 2010 and right now in your life? What would be your state of this town address?
Well, I think we've made great progress in improving on sidewalks. We've built a lot of sidewalks. We have a new town hall. In 2010, the town hadn't been closed down. I must admit, though, in 2010, I was very confident we would prevail in court, and I was wrong. So that would be so we're here to stay, and we're very interested in providing services to the people of James Island and working with the other area governments so that to improve our quality of life.
How do you define quality of life in 2019 when you think of James Island? Everyone's talking about affordable housing and gentrification and flooding. What's your definition?
I think we may have problems in some areas of James Island of gentrification. I think it's less of a problem here than, say, downtown.
Okay.
But flooding is a major concern, and we want to be proactive and really repair some of the drainage canals and ditches that have been neglected over the years and improve the ability of our conveyance system to move the water. And then walkability has always been a key goal of mine to build, especially sidewalks and also multi-use paths on the secondary roads. Now, I've always had the goal of getting sidewalks or multi-use paths, some kind of walkability and bikeability on Folly Road. That's our major thoroughfare through James Island. But when I think about what I mean by secondary roads are roads like Fort Johnson Road and Dills Bluff and Camp Road. And so we're trying to get all those roads. There we have some neighborhoods, and many of our newer neighborhoods have sidewalks, but the older neighborhoods do not. I think trying to retrofit some these old suburban neighborhoods that have no sidewalks with sidewalks is not something that is on the front burner. It's these roads between the neighborhoods. People walk on the streets in neighborhoods all the time.
Right.
But our roads like Fort Johnson Road or Dills Bluff Road or Camp Road are almost impossible for people to walk. Very dangerous and a good bit of traffic. And so we're trying to fix those. That's our goal.
And what's your relationship with the Department of Transportation? Because I know most of those are like state roads, right?
The Department of Transportation is generally more than willing to allow us to put sidewalks on the side of their road if we promise to maintain them, and we're willing to promise to maintain them. So we don't really have any conflict. We occasionally have had trouble with them. I disagree with their view that if a new development occurs on one of these roads, our view is that our regulations require that the new development put a sidewalk on that road. And from time to time, DOT says, no, it's like a sidewalk to nowhere. And our view is it's like a piece that we're not going to have to construct as we build the sidewalks through the system. And so we've had a little bit of conflict on that line, along those lines. In the past, when you talk to DOT, they would say that we have a plan to dig out the ditches along DOT roads every 6 years. And also, many of the roads within the neighborhoods of James Island are DOT roads. And so, years ago, I think it was called the Farm to Market Program. There was some kind of federal, state money, and that local legislators could get that money to just pave a residential neighborhood. And they did, and those roads are still DOT. And they have the responsibility for maintaining the ditches in those neighborhoods. And they've greatly improved, in my view. Really, the flood of 2015 was a horrible disaster. But it seems to me since that time that when I call my local representatives and say, well, we've got a problem, this needs cleaning out, that instead of before when they would say, well, that's DOT and they don't listen to us, that doesn't seem to be the case, that we get more response. Also, I gotta tell you that, every month we have a representative of DOT. We have a meeting every month for stormwater at the town of James Island.
Right.
And just as a representative of the city of Charleston, their stormwater division, Charleston County, our employees, and also DOT representatives always there. So they've been very good about coming and talking about what they're doing and working together on this. Have we completely accomplished full coordination? It's a work in progress. But we've been working on it and they've been willing to participate.
I gotta get you a take on one last thing. 526.
Well, I think that 526, if it's constructed, would modestly improve traffic on James Island. I think it is very expensive, and if they were going to give me $500 million, I probably wouldn't spend it on that. However, I don't think that the Low Country can expect that money is ours, and that if it doesn't go towards 526, it's going to end up in the PD.
And that's whose money you think it is?
Excuse me?
Is that where you think the money is going to go?
If we don't get it, it will go to, I believe, what other senators and other representatives in other parts of the state want to have done as their priority.
What alternatives do you have in mind? Everyone's saying flyovers. What's your alternative?
Well, I hope it is still true that I would prefer a flyover on Folly Road rather than a stoplight. And it's been a long time, and Mayor Riley is no longer the mayor, but he told me that we would get that. It seems to me that trying to have a main interstate going all the way would be a bit more expensive. I don't know that that'll happen, but that is sort of my preference.
Mayor Bill Woosley, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. You're welcome.